Welcome back, everybody. We are here, week 2 of the GRRL Racing League on F1-22. This week's race is going to be the Dutch Grand Prix, Netherlands. We have a sprint race coming up. Well, first we have one-shot qualifying, then the sprint race, and then a long session for our race. It's going to be an interesting one, too. As you can see, we're throwing up scores from week 1, Australia, Melbourne. We came in P2. Our pace was off pretty bad. We put a lot of work in this week to make sure our pace was going to be on point and we were going to be ready for anything, absolutely anything this race threw at me. So without further ado, let's hop right into the hot lap for our one-shot qualifying, and then we're going to jump into the sprint race, and then right after that we're going to hop into the main event. And again, unfortunately, this week we were plagued with audio issues during the race, so it's going to get a little quiet. I'm still going to have it. You might hear some choppiness. I'm going to apologize in advance for that, but instead of going back and watching the race replay, I want everyone to be able to see, you know, when a safety car comes up, ERS usage, everything I'm kind of going through here during the race. You could probably see some crazy faces that I make, some bobbing and weaving. I think we all do that a little bit, right? Am I right? Well, let's find out. Let's jump right into it, starting off with one-shot qualifying. Now, coming into the hot lap, we're going to drop straight down to fourth, cut the corner as much as possible on the inside without hitting the curb, upshift to fifth, then sixth, back down to fifth again, little on the throttle, probably about 75%, dropping down to third, popping up to fourth as quick as possible so we can get on the traction. Full speed down here, a quick downshift to sixth, back on the throttle, full speed ahead. You could use the curbs there just a little bit. Down, we're letting off just a little bit, holding sixth, down to fourth, popping back up to fifth as quick as possible. Really trying to maximize throttle usage. We only got one shot at this, so it's very important to play it safe, but at the same time, definitely need to make sure you're maximizing track usage. As we're coming into our final turn here, dropping back down to fifth gear, getting on the throttle quickly without spinning out on those nasty curbs on the left hand side, full speed, opening DRS. And we're gonna end up with P4 going into our sprint race. Pretty decent time. I know my camera's blocking it, but I think we're about a second off pace of P1, but I know I can get a 110. I've gotten a 110 on this track during time trial. Super pumped. Felt pretty good about that lap. Yeah. And let's see what the sprint race holds. It was a pretty good race. I think it was a pretty good race. I think there were some things we could have changed, maybe for a better outcome, but we will get to that. As you can see, here are the times. P4, not too far behind P1, 2, and 3. Let's jump into the sprint race and get this going. So, as you can see by my reaction, not too happy about having to start off on some intermediate tires here, but it does look like it's going to dry up for the sprint race. We got 12 laps. It was a pretty good sprint race. Yeah, it definitely was interesting. We'll probably watch a majority of this. We'll try to skip around some of the laps here, but we're going to skip the formation lap. Formation lap was pretty much uneventful, and then we will hop into the race right after we get lined up. All right, so we got the formation lap out of the way. Tires aren't exactly warmed up. I'm pretty sure like 80 degrees Celsius is where you want inners to be. Try to do a little bit of a burnout. Really don't want to take any kind of risk at all whatsoever, especially in the wet. Frickin' nail the parking, unlike last week. But as we go, we launch. Not the worst start in the world, but everybody else definitely had a better start. This is maybe like the 10th race I've ever done where it's been somewhat kind of wet, so it's a little nerve-wracking, but racing's on its way. everyone making it through the first couple turns. We lost a couple positions, but our main goal here is to stay as close as possible, try to save our ERS as much as possible as well, and really try to focus on not spinning out and just keeping the car straight, making sure we're trying to keep up really trying to keep a good pace, but at the same time, don't make any mistakes, don't swing the car around. Sprint race, although it's only a couple points, in the top 10, and there's only 10 of us here, so I'm guaranteed points as long as I can finish the race. But the biggest thing is making it through the wet. Racing in the wet is not good. Luckily, there's a lot of downforce on my setup. Even for my dry setup, there's a lot of downforce. The wet, like a full wet setup, I definitely would have a little bit more. As you can see, we got Griswold trying to make a move on us here, coming into turn 1. But we can hold him off from the outside here. Just got to be very cautious on that exit. Get a little nice block move on him. Coming around the bank turn, getting on the throttle. And we could see P5 and P4 not too far ahead of us, kind of battling it out, which is slowing them down a lot. Very narrow track. I think it's very tough to overtake. There's only a couple spots. There's probably 3 or 4 spots that are good to overtake on. As you can see, we got a virtual safety car deployed, trying to keep that delta nice, as close as we can, so we can get a nice, good restart. And we're gonna come around, and I think the virtual safety car ends on this straight up here, so we're gonna go full send. We got plenty of time to spare in the delta. Kind of letting them cars get ahead of me a little too much. Like I said, very uncomfortable racing in the rain. Never have really been a big fan of it. Never really practiced it either. I think I did one race 2 hours before this where it went from wet to dry, and let me tell you, I am glad that I did it. I'm very glad the dry setup pretty much converted right over to a wet setup without any kind of issue. So as you can see here, using a bunch of ERS, trying to catch up, trying to close that gap as much as possible. We got about a second and a half away from them. Really trying to keep up the pace here, because if it starts to dry up, I want to get to DRS range as soon as possible. I'm not really looking to make any moves. I just want to defend a little bit. Not going to go too aggressive on defending. If I can get close enough, I'm not really going to go for a pass unless I'm very confident that I can make it through without taking myself out, taking somebody else out. That's probably the biggest cause. But as you can see, they are fighting up there for P4, and let me tell you, not something I would do. I really wouldn't fight for position like that this early in the season in a wet race. I think it's just a little bit risky. And we're still coming around. We're getting a little bit closer. We're closing that gap pretty quickly. You could really see how much ERS they're using. You can see Grayless is light flashing. Although then again, that's probably because it's raining. Everyone is. So it's kind of hard to tell how much ERS they might be using. But they are really battling it out. You know, they are right on top of each other. Hopefully, maybe if one of them make a mistake, we can avoid it and get past. But as of right now, I think we're doing pretty good. DRS was activated, which I found, I feel like it was a little bit early. I really do think it was a little bit early to be activating that. I'm surprised race control allowed it, but We're going to take every little bit that we got here. Also, DRS means track will be drying up soon. I'm definitely getting a little bit more comfortable after a couple laps in the rain. Really able to put a little bit more power down, as you guys can see. Brake a little bit later. Still braking early, though. Still upshifting or short shifting relatively soon. Or relatively early, shall I say. Little easy on the throttle in there. And then you can see, like, we're almost full throttle. I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed in the rain is making sure your car is 100% straight and you're in a not too high of or not too low of a gear to really put the power down. You want to be very cautious. Same thing with braking. Always braking in a straight line as much as possible. These two are still going at it, but Grayless has managed to pass and get into P4. Gonna get DRS here once more, and I believe the track is relatively dry. We're almost not 100%. It's definitely still a little greasy, but as you can see on this lap here, everybody is coming into pit, and I make a bold move. I'm not comfortable with going to wet to soft tires just yet. I'm gonna make the switch to soft eventually, but I decided to stay out for one more lap, and I think I really could have stepped on it a little bit more, but I was still kind of playing cautious. The track was just on the edge of being almost fully dry already after a lap or two, and then still just a little greasy, you know. And you could see our man in P2's got a 5-second penalty, just got a 5-second penalty as well, probably for speeding into the pits, which is huge for us right now. We got a 9-second, 8-second lead on him, plus 5 seconds that we really can play with if needed. But I was feeling pretty good. I was feeling confident at this point. The track was really starting to dry up by the end of this lap. We're using a bunch of ERS, probably a little too much ERS, trying to just keep that gap going as best as possible, at least so when we pit we can try to come out for P3. That's what I had in my head. And I think the crucial mistake that I made here, there was two ways to go about this. Either pit on lap 6, which I believe, looking back at it now, is what I should have did. If I pitted there, I probably would have came out P2, P3, maybe. Definitely at least P3. And that was the critical mistake I made this race. I stayed out one extra lap thinking I could get away with it. At this point, possibly, maybe, this track is a little harsh on tire temps. I may have been able to go the rest of the race on the inters and probably came at around P2, P3, possibly P4 depending. But I really didn't want to take that risk. I feel like that would have been a really big risk. You could see my front left tire screaming up to 90 degrees Celsius, burning yellow. There's no way we would have made it. Looking back at it now, there's no way we would have made it, but I'm definitely feeling the wear into these inters as we're coming in to finish lap 7, and we are going to end up pit. Yeah, we're definitely going to pit here. Definitely should have pitted lap 6. I think lap 6 would have given me way more of an advantage, but staying out, I think, was also the right call. I think that extra lap would have been great. We get the line up on the pit stop well. We have a good quick pit stop, 2.2 seconds. Let's go. Let's go. That's pretty good. Unfortunately, as we're coming out of the pits, I want to say realistically we gain one position. We go up one position on Grayless, which is good. You know, the strategy definitely could have worked out better, but we made it up one position. At the end of the day, that's worth it to me. We're gonna have to defend, but we have fresher tires and everybody else on the track. Like I said, I put a lot of practice in this week. really was excited for this race. I was also a little nervous. Like I said, it's a very narrow track. I think it's really hard to overtake on. I'm not the best at defending. I'm also not the best at overtaking. I'm very, very cautious, especially when it comes to league racing. Like, you know, I want to be as competitive as possible, but at the same time, I don't want to take myself out, and I don't want to take anybody else's. You know, if I spin somebody else out, I'm going to feel terrible. You know, we're all doing this here for fun. It's nothing too serious, and I know if somebody spun me out accidentally, you know, I'd be definitely pretty aggravated. But as you can see, I kind of burned through my ERS very, very quickly. We're only have a couple laps left, but my biggest downfall was burning through all that ERS, because it is almost impossible to gain ERS back on this track, especially for me. Maybe there's a different setup out there that would change that, make it a little bit better. As you can see, P4 has a 5-second penalty, so I'm trying my best to stay as close as possible to that. That way we can get a better position for the race and better points overall. But it was definitely a good race. Just, I think the two big downfalls would be not pitting on lap 6. I think we waited a little too long to change over to the soft tires, and as you can see, just burning up the ERS. But like I said, trying to keep that 5-second gap between me and P4, and I'm also trying to get Grayless out of my DRS. But he's got some pace, he's good, he's quick, he's consistent, and he's gonna be a menace to deal with this year. Well, this season, I could see it. I could see it already. He is barreling down right in my rear view mirror here. I'm trying to defend with everything I got. Like I said, don't want to be too aggressive. It's only the sprint race. Still want to get a decent position. Unfortunately, a majority of the people in the league couldn't race this past Sunday, but we're here. Don't plan on missing a single race. Gonna soak up as many points as we possibly can. We're coming through still under 10% ERS, and that's really when you start losing a lot of speed just from the car. You see we did a purple sector there, which is nice. Don't think it's going to be quick enough though for fastest lap. It might be, but we are seriously burning. We're burning all of our ERS up. Big mistake. Ooh, Grayless trying to come in for the pass in turn 1. Got rejected though. We're gonna make sure we try to cover our inside lines here as much as possible. Getting on that throttle, getting full speed ahead, probably using more ERS if I could only imagine. Wow, we didn't. We're trying to save it. We're definitely trying to save it a little bit here. We got a lap and a half to go. Doing everything I possibly can to try to defend without being a little too overly aggressive. Get a little on the curb here, which messes me up, slows me down a little bit. Making sure I'm not overextending coming into this turn here. We know he's going to have DRS, so we're popping just a little bit of that overtake. Coming in. Ooh, it's a little close. He's braking pretty late. He's trying to gain up time. And as we come into the last turn, we know he's going to have DRS. We'll try to defend just a little bit. Not too overly aggressive. We're going to let him kind of swing in through here. I honestly thought I was going to be able to cut him on the inside still, but he just ended up having more battery power than we did. But we're going to try to stay right on top of him and pass him in one of the DRS straights, or hope that he makes a mistake. But it's not looking too good. It's not looking too good here. And we got somebody crashing out of the session, unfortunately, in the last turn on the last lap. Now you can see his batteries flashing. He's using everything trying to get me off his tail. We're coming around into the first DRS zone here. Right on him. I kind of swung a little too wide. And I think if I saved some of my overtake right here, I think that would have been key. If I just used DRS, we take that turn a lot better, a little tighter. We're coming around to the last turn. He goes a little too far to the left, makes a little bit of a mistake. And if I had a little bit more ERS and was able to just maybe get on it a little bit more, I think I could have passed him, but it was a very close race for our sprint. Definitely a fun one for me. Definitely interesting going from wet to dry. It's always going to be interesting like that. But we'll throw up our standings here real quick, and then we are going to jump right into the full race, and we'll skip around in it. We'll show you some highlights. I hope you enjoyed the sprint race. So without further ado, let's get into the full race. Hopefully it's dry for the race. Yep. Why would it be? Here we go again. Well, as you can see, not too thrilled that we're going to be starting off on inters again. Was not expecting to see that in the sprint and in the race as well. I was hoping at least one of them was just going to be a full dry race, but let's get underway with the formation lap. Such a sad moment. I'm going to apologize again too. This is the part in the video where the game audio just got messed up. I'm going to try to mute it as much as possible. I don't want to completely mute this entire section of the video, but you probably will hear a little bit of it in the background. Maybe we'll throw some music over it just to try to help out here. But as you can see, starting off in P5, I think it's a pretty good position. You know, we're halfway through the pack, considering there's only 10 of us, but I think we did a pretty damn good job in the sprint race and our one-shot qualifying. Very happy with how everything's turning out so far. Definitely excited to see how this race is gonna play out. We're gonna skip ahead right now and get straight into the race start here in just a sec. All right, so we are pulling into the grid. Got our tires barely warmed up. Again, not really doing any kind of crazy burnout. Getting a good parking job. And we got the lights are about to drop, and we are going to be on our way right here. We got a really decent start. Not as good as Grayless, but we got a very good start. We're going to hang it out real wide through this, give everybody some space, try to hold off that alpha, but doesn't look like it's going to happen. Still holding on to P5 at the moment. Trying to really be cautious. Not 100% sure how it's going to end up. We already have one caution coming through, but it looks like that got sorted very quickly. Everyone's still very close. As you can see, hopefully everybody makes it through this first lap unscathed. Really had the confidence from the sprint race on the intermediate, so I'm feeling pretty good going into this race. Still definitely taking it cautious. We got a long way to go, 36 laps. We don't know how long it's going to stay raining. We don't even know if it will clear up. The weather's set to approximate, so who knows? It could have been wet the entire race, but it seems to be like everyone's going to make it through this first lap here, using a little bit of the overtake, trying to stay as close as possible and keep up with everybody. Braking much later than we were in the sprint race. Still kind of going a little wide into turn one. And we have one person in the pits, probably due to maybe if I had to take a guess, a little front wing damage, but we are hanging in there. Still in P5 on lap 2. Pack's kind of spread now just a little bit. The midfield is all within at least a second of each other for the most part. Definitely a solid race right off the get-go. As you can see, we're catching Fairbear here just a little bit each lap, trying to hang on. You know, the more we could draft off him, the less overtake we'll have to use. You know, if we could save our battery. I learned from the sprint race, really was trying to focus on saving as much ERS as possible. And again, clean race. We didn't want to get any penalties. You know, obviously don't want to spin out, don't want to crash out or anything like that. Don't want to get a DNF. Still very early in the season. The more points we get now, the better off we'll be later on this season. Hopefully me and T-Wax can take Ferrari to the top of the Constructor Series, but we still have, I want to say, 8 more races to go. 10 race season. Definitely not good at doing math off the top of my head, even simple math, but that's besides the point. So we're doing a pretty decent job keeping up. You could see we have a couple stragglers hanging around the back there. Oh, and Fairbear just getting a little loose sideways. Unfortunately spinning out. Looked like he was able to save it though. He seems like he got back on track pretty quickly there and didn't lose all too much. Now it's just a matter of chasing down Grayless, True Bailey, and the myth, the man, legend, the guy's name I don't know how to pronounce. Egg, Eagle, not sure. I apologize for that, but he has got definitely some of the fastest pace I've seen out of our sprint race, all the qualifying sessions, last week's race in Australia. Next week, we're going to have Miami coming up. Very, very excited for that. It's going to be a tough track. I really haven't driven it much. I think I did it once in a My Team test run that I did, but either than that, it's definitely going to be one hell of a learning curve this week for me. So as you can see, the gap is really starting to open up between myself and P3. Not really looking too good. I got someone really pushing up, getting very, very close. I think I was really just trying to hang back a little bit. Again, being as cautious as I possibly can, trying to keep the car straight, not spin out, not really try to lose any time. It looks like Bailey and Grayless are battling pretty good up there, which is definitely helping us out. You know, the more they battle, the slower they're going to be, and the greater chances of them making a mistake and me trying to gain some time out of that. But looks like we're doing pretty good here. We're doing pretty solid. As you can see, I'm pausing, trying to get the audio issues sorted out. Somebody told me in my stream that that was a thing. I tried it multiple times throughout this race. It did not work whatsoever. I was also trying not to pause. It's a very hard track to pause on. Really, you can only do it in that front straightaway. But we are going to skip a couple laps ahead here and get into some action. So as you guys can see on lap 6 here, still holding down P4, still holding Jish off just a little bit, and DRS is enabled. That's telling me the rain's gonna end. I couldn't hear anything my engineer was trying to say. I actually lost communication with him. I wasn't even able to hit the button to talk to him if I wanted to, which is another bug they just need to fix in this game besides the audio issues. But track's going to be drying up here in the next couple laps. Very, very curious to see how everybody's going to react to it, what lap they're going to decide to pit on, considering how everything went in the sprint race. I myself just do not want to make the same mistake that I made in the sprint race of waiting too long to pit onto, you know, hard, soft, medium, whatever our choice is going to be here. I believe we go with the medium when we have the chance. I think that's going to be the play, and then try to switch to a soft later on, maybe around lap 30 or 31. But as we're going, the track's definitely feeling pretty wet still. Again, just trying to use that overtake to get into that DRS range. A lot of time to make up to even really be able to get into it, but Rayless and Bailey were still going at it a decent amount. They kind of got a little bit more spread out here. Rayless probably soaking up some DRS, trying to save his battery as well. And as you can see, everyone goes into the pit on lap 7, almost a replica of what happens in the sprint race. And I'm staying out because I am definitely not confident that I could even make it a lap around. I know how slow it's going to be. The track's still very slippery. If I were to go and hit onto the mediums that lap, I probably would have spun out. I can confidently say I would have spun out. As you can see, we're going to select medium tires for our next go around here, but the one thing I didn't want to do is run another lap. That was going to be the biggest downfall there. Didn't want to make that same mistake that we did in the sprint race. And let's see how this plays out here. As you can see, the track's still a little bit greasy, but with a little bit of luck, we have a safety car at the perfect moment. Absolute perfect moment. Now, the only thing I see that I really messed up on here is, one, I'm not saving my battery. I was definitely not saving it as much as we need. The pit will help because we're going to pit this lap right here, hopefully being able to come out in first place. And then on top of that, really, oh, I think that's about it, actually. As you can see, we went with the mediums. We're still under safety car. Almost spin out coming out of the pits here. But we manage to come out in P2. So us staying out that one extra lap, again, just like the sprint race, saved us a bunch. And the track's definitely still a little greasy, but I think by the time we get back to racing, the track would be pretty dry. It feels pretty good for being on cold mediums. We're gonna hope we have a nice, safe, clean restart. As you can see, P1's doing the same thing I'm doing, trying to get rid of this audio glitch. That's the reason why he's showing up as an AI. I think everybody in the lobby was having this issue. It wasn't just me, but it definitely makes racing hard, especially when someone's coming up right next to you. Like, if you don't see him in your rearview mirror or the side mirrors, it's very hard to hear other cars when they're by you. I don't know what Codemasters is doing here. They really need to fix this. It's probably one of the most aggravating things. If anybody has a fix for it, please drop a comment down below. Let me know what you've done to fix it. So, as you can see, we have one lap fresher tires. We're in P2. Grayless has gone for the soft. Now, my game plan here is to ride these mediums out as long as possible and then try to pit, like I said, maybe lap 31, 32, somewhere around there. And I think that would be the key. Put on a nice fresh set of softs, and I think that would be a nice solid race, all depending on how everything plays out though. So we're coming around for another lap, just trying to get the tires up to temperature. It's kind of hard to bob and weave on this track. It wasn't too difficult when I was practicing during the week in GP mode. The track is basically completely dry at this point. Right now, my biggest issue is getting that back right tire up to temperature, and I am just struggling to do this without running into the back of anybody or going off the track. Only halfway around the circuit at this point. I mean, we still have some time to at least get it up to 80. If we get up to 80 degrees Celsius, I think I'd feel mildly comfortable going into turn one, but I can already tell you it's not going to be a quick turn one for us. There's no way. As you can see, P1 doing a little bit of a burnout. I try to avoid doing that. I don't want anyone to run into the back end of me. He's doing it again. I think I do a little one right here, but we all kind of agreed before the race, you know, try to keep some better distance so we're not running into the back of each other like what happened in Australia last weekend. So now we can see safety cars coming in this lap, trying to stay as close as we can, trying to stay in a somewhat higher gear so we can really get on the throttle. Our tires are atrocious right now in the blue, not even close to being warmed up. I'm very, very nervous on this start. Rayless is right up on us on the left-hand side too. And I had to just back up just a little bit there, and it really, really messed me up. As you can see, tires are starting to kind of come up to temperature. Not too much we could do to defend on that first turn there. Grayless also on the softs. I know he's going to be a little bit quicker. He's going to have better grip. Probably had no issues at all getting his tire up to temp. But now the goal is just stay in DRS range and keep the hammer down. Try to defend as best as possible now that the track's dry. Tires are getting up to temperature. Somebody's spinning out in the back there, but we should be good. Shouldn't be another safety car. No virtual safety car. And now we're just doing our best to stay up as close as we can. You can see our battery jumped up a decent amount here, and looking back on it now, I see that I was definitely overusing it. I could have just stayed more in the slipstream a little bit instead of wasting so much precious battery. Like I said, very hard to gain any kind of battery back on this track, but these guys really just had a couple of these turns nailed down very, very well. But the more they fight, the slower they go. And as long as I can stay consistent, always, every race, just all I want to do is be consistent each race, have a good consistent pace. Make sure we're not getting penalties, not making too many mistakes. You know, mistakes, even if it's just a small tenth, you know, that can make or break a race right there. Falling out of DRS range, these two could pull away so easily. And I'm actually surprised Rayless hasn't passed and gone into P1 just yet, considering he's on them softs. But I know also at the same time, those softs are going to fall off pretty quick. And we still have a decent amount, not even halfway through this race just yet. As you can see, coming in, dive bombing into the turn here, just really trying to make the pass. I think I held him off pretty well. I think I left him enough room. I think it was a very bold move for sure. Getting really using that overtake button. There we go. DRS finally getting enabled this lap here. Really trying to defend the inside and the outside here as best as possible. Don't want anyone to get by me. I'm also starting to lose a little bit of time to the guys ahead, but still trying to save some battery. I know I have a quicker sector 2 than everybody else. For the most part, it's usually pretty good. Sector 1's all right. I think everyone was pretty evenly matched in Sector 1. Sector 3 has always been tough for me on this track. But I know I can make up a little bit of time here, and hoping we can get to DRS coming through here, which we do get, which will help us a little bit. Still, just need a little bit more. Need to get a little bit closer to where we could stop using the overtake button. throwing down another purple sector. 2 purple sectors, actually. We got Sector 1 and Sector 2. I just saw that, just realized that. Obviously, P1's got the fastest lap at the moment. I think he throws down another one, Grayless does, and then I do right afterwards. So the 3 of us are moving along very well. You can see we're really starting to pull away from the rest of the pack. And I'm going to hold on to that fastest lap as long as I can. I know it's not going to last long. Oh, we make a big mistake here, though. Just getting on the throttle a little too early. And now it's going to be a race to try to catch back up. But sadly, we are under 10% of our battery, and it is going to be a struggle for the rest of the race. Not a very good position to be in. As long as we could try to recover some of it, but still keep a decent pace, I think we'll be all right. As you could see, Grayless taking P1 now, but getting to a point where those soft tires are probably going to start falling off in the next lap or 2, depending on how well he can manage them. P2 probably sitting back, just trying to save some battery, because that's probably the smart thing to do. That's probably what I would have tried doing, although they definitely have a little bit more pace than me. But I think this was definitely one of my stronger tracks so far this season. I actually used to really not like this track all that much, and after practicing it last week a couple times, I've come to really enjoy it. It's a fun technical track. Haven't learned it without the racing line yet, as you guys can see, but it's definitely a decent track in my opinion. So we are gonna skip ahead here. All we're gonna be doing right now is trying to catch up, trying to get back into that DRS range, but you can see they're starting to pull away from me, and my goal at this point is to keep the gap from P4. Don't let him get the DRS, but we will see what happens here as we skip ahead a couple laps. So as you guys can see here, we are coming into lap 19, P3, still holding strong, still holding P4 back, and Grayless is coming in to pit and change off of his softs onto a medium tire. This gives us a great opportunity to put some distance between myself and him. We take P2 from here. Our tires still feel pretty good. They're getting a little worn. They're definitely getting a little worn. Maybe a little too ambitious to be able to get to lap 30, 31, and then pitting for a set of softs, but that's still kind of my game plan. Just keeping an eye on those tires, really trying to save them as much as possible, keep a decent pace. I know Grayless is definitely going to have to, he's going to have to put in some work to get back up. He's almost 14 seconds behind. We have a comfortable lead between us and P3 as well. And it's working out well. It's definitely working out well. As you can see, P3 also took a set of hards earlier under the safety car, which is going to be very interesting to see if he can go the rest of the race on those set of hards and still keep the pace to keep up. As you can see too, we also got everyone's a little spread out there. A couple people spun out. I think a couple people had to pit while we were jumping ahead a couple laps here. But the pace is staying pretty good. We're consistent right around 114, 115 each lap. Was starting to get into the groove, was kind of getting used to the audio glitch. If I didn't practice, and didn't really remember my shifting points, I think that really would have made a big difference. Just goes to show how much practice, how even if it's just one race a day in GP mode can really go a long way. But as you can see, coming on to lap 20 here, still only at 35% worn on 3 of our tires. Doing pretty good. Still have a pace of a 14 here. Now our leader pits. He's going on to a second set of medium tires. Have an unfortunate spin out from Bailey, saying he is out of the session, and now I believe that's going to create, nope, yep, there it is, a full safety car. So now my entire game plan has changed. We have a massive lead. We got a nice 13-second lead, which is phenomenal. Again, just got a perfect safety car. So we're going to work our way into the pits, and instead of going on to a set of softs, we're going to go right for another set of medium tires. And we should be able to last easily the rest of the race with this, have decent pace. Tires will only be 1 lap fresher, and not even really 1 lap. But the safety car will give us some good time to warm up our tires properly. Now that it's not raining, hopefully we can get them up to temperature and have a really good restart on this. As you can see, really taking my time getting in the pits here. Want to make sure we don't pick up any kind of penalty whatsoever. Have a relatively quick pit stop. I think that's pretty good. Pulling up the tire temps. As you can see, Grayless getting past because he had pitted already. So he's on a couple old tires there. Hooser pits for a set of mediums as well to get off the hards. And also we had our original race leader, who had just pit, goes back in and puts a set of softs on with just over 10 laps to go. And I think that's going to be a little risky there, but I think we're in a phenomenal spot here. We're going to fast forward through our safety car here and get right back to the restart. So as you guys could see, we are coming out of our caution using a bunch of battery. Tires still very, very cold. Still running into that issue, trying to defend the inside here coming into turn 1. Seem to hold off P3 very, very well, trying to block him. I know he's fast. I know he's on the softs. He's going to do everything he possibly can to get around me, and I'm going to do everything I can to try to hold him off here as long as I can, at least until those tires start falling off. Want to catch up to Grayless as quickly as possible so we could not have to use as much battery, try to ride in his slipstream here. But as you can see, coming in only half a second off, and we're back to a caution. We get another spin out. Very, very unfortunate. But we're going to keep rolling here. And a safety car gets deployed for the 3rd time this race. Super unfortunate, but it happens. Part of racing. We're going to skip ahead through this again. Hopefully we will get a much better restart. 3rd time is the charm. So now, as we can see, safety car is about to come in this lap. Just 10 more laps to go in this long race with 3 different safety cars. We definitely got a better start. Our tires are a little bit better, just a little bit better, but we're definitely a little bit more on Grayless. But Legacy coming in right behind us, trying to take us on the outside, doesn't manage to do it. We get to hold him off. Him and Griswold kind of going back and forth, battling a little bit, both with penalties. Not really too worried about them as much. I'm more worried about that man in P5. He's going to be working his way up to me, and I know he's coming quick. But we definitely get our best restart of the session. So we're trying to stay on game as best as possible. We got to be on point with all of our apexes, breaking points, on the throttle as soon as we can, making sure we're staying close. We got plenty of battery, and I'm sure we're going to waste it just like we did instead of trying to save it and play a little bit smarter. Something I definitely need to work on here. We managed to make it through a lap. I think we lose almost a quarter of the field throughout this whole entire race, but that's all right. We're still in it. We're in P2. Hopefully it's dry for the race. Starting from P5 or P6, I believe. A bunch of people now racking up some penalties in the back here. You can see a little contact in my rearview mirror. One thing I did want to mention too was right before that last safety car there, I had a little bit of contact. There's a very aggressive move coming into that tight chicane before the last couple turns. And as you could see, Egg Eagle, Mr. No Name, Mr. P3 is right back on my bumper, trying to make a move, trying to hold it on the outside as best as I can, getting just a little bit more speed, using as much overtake as I possibly can. He's going to swing over to the right hand side, makes a big dive bomb. Very, very risky play. You can see he used a lot of ERS on that one, ended up making it past me. I wanted to leave him some space. I knew if I didn't, we were going to make contact like we did earlier, and I didn't want to risk losing out on a good position and good points on this race. So now the goal is to stay within DRS range. As long as we can keep that gap within 3 seconds, we can walk away with a P2 here and just stay consistent for the next couple laps. But as you can see, Grayless and our man in P2 here just have incredible pace, just like they showed in Australia as well. Really, really doing a great job. They're really pulling away. I'm struggling, trying to do my best. The nerves were really starting to kick in. As you can see, I wasted so much of my battery trying to keep up, but not even able to get DRS. That's how quick these guys are. We're close. We're very, very close, but just not close enough. The best bet we have is them two battling it out for the rest of the race. That is our best chance right now of staying within that 3-second penalty zone to walk away with a P2. I'd like to be able to actually pass him and take him for the P2, but when it comes to league racing, I'll take anything I can get here. So as we can see, trying to really hug that first turn tight, trying to get every little bit of track that we can use, every little bit of advantage, trying to stay on the throttle as early as possible. We know our tires are still pretty fresh. They really haven't been used all that much because we had 2 safety cars since we pitted. But these guys are really starting to pull away on me here now. And as you can see, I'm under that 10% ERS, which is definitely not a good position. Something I really, really, really need to start working on is learning how to manage that just a little bit better. But we're still within that 3-second penalty range. So I'm feeling pretty good. We got 6 seconds on the car behind us. The car behind him's got a 5-second penalty. As you can see, these guys are going back and forth. Grayless defending like a champion. But we are really, really pushing here. We're getting really close to being outside of that 3-second penalty range. As you can see, tires right around 25%, 23%. We'll say 25 because it's the worst tire. definitely had to play around with my pressures during the week, trying to get the tune just right. I don't think all of them are set evenly. I think each one individually was trying to get them where the tires would all wear out evenly. But obviously, when it comes to the race, any little mess up, or if the back end wants to kick out a little bit, any loss of grip is going to add just that little bit of extra wear on one of your tires. As you can see, P2 was almost completely out of that penalty-free zone of me overtaking him for the finish. I'm trying my best. They are just pulling and pulling away. Hopefully they start battling, and they do. They're going back and forth fighting for P1. It's slowing them down just a little bit. I'm trying to do everything I possibly can to catch up. I'm going to end up using the overtake, even if it's driving me down to zero, just to keep up as much as I possibly can. Try to get back into DRS range. Still not able to do that. About half a second away from it, but they're definitely slowing down as they battle it out. So as you guys could see, we skipped ahead a little bit. I managed to be able to hold on to that 3-second penalty zone to try to put myself up into P2. As we're going to be coming into our final lap here, we're pretty much all out of our battery. Used every last little bit of it. We're doing everything we possibly can to try to stay in that 3-second zone. And we're just on the edge of it. It's going to be so close. So close. But let's see how this last lap turns out as we're coming down using all that freaking overtake, man. All of it, making more, pretty much the same mistake. But I feel like at this stage in the race, there's no chance of us catching them. So we might as well use everything we got. They're still battling back and forth. They've been battling for the last 8 or 9 laps. And as you could see, we lose P2 going out, spinning on the soft tires. Just tires degraded, probably a little too much, a little overconfident. Able to take P2. Now we have a nice comfortable spot. We know we're not going to catch Grayless, so we're going to take this turn nice and easy. Come in, we'll probably use the rest of our overtake just for good measure to make sure we have no battery left for the end of this race. And we finish the race in P2. What a wild, chaotic, crazy race it was, going from intermediates to dry to 3 or 4 different safety cars. It was a little bit of a mess. Almost half of the field DNFs, unfortunately. Very sad to see, but we managed penalty free. I think I drove a very good race. I think I definitely could have done a little bit better. There was some stuff we could have went back on before my second league race ever. I think that was pretty goddamn good. I'm gonna throw up some of the standings for our driver points constructor series, and I'll throw up the rest of the schedule for the season so you guys can see. Please feel free, come hang out. We race on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I stream everything live on Twitch. All the information will be down in the description below. I will also add the Discord for the league that I'm in. And if anybody would like to join, I think there's still some spots open on Aston Martin. I don't know if they're going to take anybody in, but I'm sure they're going to do another season after this. And yeah, looking forward to our next race. Like I said, it's going to be Miami this weekend. It's going to be a good one. It's a very difficult track for me. It's a fresh track for everybody. It's new to the game this year. So I'm looking forward to see how it's going to turn out. I need to go practice, work on a tune, and we will see you guys in the next video.